The crisp scent of pine lingered in the air, a stark contrast to the suffocating silence that had become the backdrop of our suburban existence. Christine had insisted, no, practically begged, for this couple's retreat. A weekend away in a secluded mountain cabin, free from the distractions of modern life. A chance to reconnect, she had said, her eyes carrying a nervous energy I had chosen to dismiss. I had attributed it to stress, foolishly convincing myself that this trip was her way of extending an olive branch. As I hoisted our luggage from the trunk, the weight did little to ease a tension knotted in my chest. For months, an invisible wall had divided us. Intimacy had become nothing more than a hollow routine, overshadowed by her absence. Even when she stood before me, she felt distant, as if she existed in an entirely different world. I had tried, truly tried, to bridge the gap between us, but it was like reaching for a shadow. The cabin itself had a rustic charm, nestled between towering redwoods. At the front desk, a woman with kind eyes and a name tag, reading Brenda greeted us with a warm smile. She slid a check-in form and a welcome packet across the counter. For the first time in months, a flicker of hope stirred within me as I accepted the clipboard. "You've got a beautiful place here," I said sincerely. "Thank you, dear. You too enjoy your stay," she replied, her smile carrying an almost knowing quality as she gestured toward a small desk where I could fill out the form. Christine had already wandered off toward the restroom, the sharp click of her boots echoing against the wooden floor. I unfolded the paper, pen hovering over the first few lines. Name, address, emergency contact. Standard information. But near the bottom, one name leapt out at me, screaming from the otherwise mundane page. It wasn't our usual emergency contact. It wasn't a doctor or a family member. Instead, beside my wife's information, a single name stood out. Dylan. A cold wave crashed over me. It wasn't just a name itself. It was the way she had always spoken it, softly, as if it carried a weight she never wanted me to notice. A slow, burning nausea coiled in my stomach as countless small moments fell into place. The late nights at work, the secrecy surrounding her phone, the growing distance between us. I couldn't tear my eyes from the page. The truth had always been there, lurking beneath the surface. But seeing it written in black and white made it undeniable. The confirmation hit like a gut punch, knocking the air from my lungs. The suspicion I had barely allowed myself to entertain was now an inescapable reality. Christine returned, coming to a halt when she saw me motionless by the desk. "Everything okay?" she asked, her voice laced with a thin thread of unease. My throat felt dry as I extended the form toward her, my finger pressing against the damning name. Her gaze followed mine, and in an instant, the color drained from her face. A tremor ran through her hand, her wide eyes betraying the panic she didn't have time to mask. "How could you?" The words escaped in a hoarse whisper. She opened her mouth, desperate to form a response, but nothing came. She had always carried herself with unwavering confidence, so sure she could keep up the charade, maintain this fragile illusion of a marriage while leading a double life. But now, she saw the truth written across my face. Her deception had reached its end. "It's not," she began, but the lie withered before it could take shape. I scoffed, my voice sharp with restrained fury. "Not what? Not his name? Not an emergency contact." My chest tightened as the anger swelled. "Did you think I would notice? That I wouldn't see it? Is this what you meant by reconnecting? Sneaking away to be with him while pretending to fix what you've already shattered?" My voice rose, the dam breaking, emotion spilling over. Tears welled in her eyes, but the sight of them only fed my frustration. Her regret, if it was even real, meant nothing to me now. "I'm so sorry," she finally whispered, her voice barely holding together. But there was no weight behind it, no true remorse. Just empty words, slipping into the void she created. At that moment, her tears didn't stir sympathy. They only fueled the fire burning inside me. Every quivering, defeated word that slipped from her lips stoked my fury. The deception that had strangled me for so long was finally dragged into the light, and now I saw it for what it truly was: filth. I had invested everything into this marriage. Our home, our future, the life we had carefully built together, only to discover she had carelessly thrown it all away for a fleeting affair with someone she barely knew outside the office. The rage surged, raw and unfiltered, no longer restrained by the walls I had once built to suppress it. This was the angriest I had ever been in my life. "Sorry," I repeated, my voice dripping with scorn. "That's all you have to say? After everything, the years, the memories, that's it?" My fists clenched at my sides, my body trembling with the weight of my emotions. Where's the honesty? Where's the actual remorse? My voice rose, edged with fury. "I gave you everything, and this is how you repay me? Who even are you? What kind of person does something like this?" I couldn't steady my voice anymore. The storm inside me had reached its peak, my entire body shaking from the force of my anger. I took a breath, my tone turning cold and unwavering. "Here's what's going to happen, Christine," I said, each word sharp as glass. "You're going to pack your things and leave. You are not welcome in my life anymore." Her eyes widened, her body frozen in place as tears streamed down her face. The carefully constructed facade she had upheld for so long shattered in an instant. At the front desk, Brenda glanced in our direction, her expression shifting from polite curiosity to quiet concern. She didn't step in, but she was watching now. Christine lifted a trembling hand, as if reaching for a lifeline. "Wait, please," she stammered, desperation leaking into her voice. I didn't let her finish. My grip tightened around a room key as I swiped it off the desk. My hands were unsteady, but they no longer shook from pain. They trembled with certainty. "I'll call you an Uber," I said, my voice void of emotion. "Go upstairs, pack whatever you brought, and be back here in 5 minutes. If you're not, I'll drag you out myself." The color drained from her face as panic took hold. "You can't," she whispered, looking utterly defeated. I exhaled sharply, my expression hardening. "I can and I will," I said. "You tossed away better a long time ago. And now, all that's left is the worst. And I'll stand right here and watch as you sink." She gasped softly, her lips parting as if to protest, but no words came. Then, without another plea, she turned and ran, her boots hammering frantic footsteps against the wooden floor as she vanished down the hallway. I stood there, feeling strangely hollow. The anger had burned itself out, leaving only a cold, quiet satisfaction in its wake. A part of me wanted to prolong this moment, to make her feel every ounce of the pain she had inflicted on me. But watching her scramble to collect the remnants of the life she had destroyed, that was a punishment far greater than anything I could say. I stepped outside, waiting in silence, unmoving. When she finally emerged, dragging her suitcase behind her, she didn't look at me. She walked straight past, her gaze locked on the pavement as she headed for the parking lot. Her silence spoke louder than anything she could have said. Minutes later, the Uber pulled up without a word. I lifted her suitcase into the trunk. I didn't look back. I didn't offer a farewell. I simply shut the trunk, turned away, and slammed the door on both the ride and our marriage. She didn't fight it. She didn't beg. She didn't even attempt to explain anymore. She knew, just as I did, that it was over. I paid the driver to take her to the nearest town, leaving her to figure out her next move, just as she had forced me to figure out mine. As the car pulled away, I watched through the rearview mirror as she shrank into the distance. And in that moment, I knew this was a hard lesson for both of us. But for the first time in a long time, I felt free. This wasn't the reconnection I had expected from this trip, but it was the one I needed, a severing of ties, a final, permanent disconnection. Back inside the lodge, Brenda gave me a small, knowing smile and slid the cabin key across the counter. "Looks like you got the place to yourself now," she said gently. "We can throw in some extra towels and add breakfast to your stay." I let out a slow breath, feeling something loosen inside me. "That would be great," I said, taking the key. As I walked to my cabin, the last remnants of the hurt she had left behind began to fade. This retreat was meant to save our marriage, but the truth was, she had never truly given us a chance. But now I had one. For the first time in years, I didn't have to wonder where she was or who she was with. I spent the weekend hiking, inhaling the crisp mountain air, letting each step clear my head. The lodge had a communal fire pit, and I found myself sitting around it, laughing with strangers. Genuine laughter, the kind I had once forgotten was possible. This wasn't the weekend I had envisioned, but in hindsight, it was exactly the one I needed. I was still the same person I had always been, loyal, kind, trusting. And now, I could be that person again, without the weight of betrayal dragging me down. Driving home on Sunday evening, I felt no sadness, no grief, only clarity. There was nothing left to hold on to, no emotions left to wrestle with, only the certainty that life would go on. Christine's lies had nearly broken me. But now that the storm had passed, I was more grateful than ever that she was no longer a part of it. As I pulled into my driveway, my space untouched by her, I realized something. The only reconnection I had ever truly needed was with myself. The journey had been brutal, but now, for the first time in a long time, I could finally be kind to me.